They are two belles of the South, Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina. About 100 miles apart, they've been rivals for centuries, debating everything from which has the best manners to which makes the sweetest tea. But these cities have something in common, too. Just how to preserve their moss-draped southern charm without turning their backs on progress.
There's a lot of jealousy between the two of them, I must say.
Retired American history professor John Duncan was born in Charleston, but has spent the last 50 years in Savannah. His home, off Monterey Square, was built in 1869.
How can you keep a city like this charming and preserve its history and yet still move forward at the same time?
Well, many Savannahans would say we wouldn't want to move forward at the same time. We're happy just the way we are, thank you very much.
Many in Charleston might say the same thing, and that's the design dilemma. While it's tempting to want to put these historic cities in formaldehyde, to embalm them and shun anything modern, Charleston's mayor, Joe Riley, says that's not a viable answer.
A historic city should be a living place, because if you don't have that, then it's a former something. A former once great city that now is pretty to see.
Charleston has the oldest historic district in the country. It's carefully preserved the city's grand public buildings, as well as the mansions along the Battery, and of course the famous Rainbow Road. The city's signature style, however, is the Charleston single house. Tall, slender homes with two-tiered porches. They're called piazzas here, that sometimes look out over a private garden. It's an architectural fabric that new buildings have a hard time matching.
You know, it's like there is this beautiful painting that has been painted, and you have an opportunity to paint something within that beautiful painting. You've got to be careful that in what you paint there, you don't detract from the overall context of what has been created.
It's up to Charleston's Board of Architectural Review to approve new construction, and sometimes the mayor himself gets involved, as he did with the architect of a proposed parking garage.
I said, I want a building that doesn't look like a parking garage. This was a long time ago. And he very nicely explained to me that that's not what you do. And I said, no, that's what we're doing in Charleston. I don't want it to look like a parking garage.
This is what resulted, a garage that actually won the Federal Design Achievement Award. Then there's Charleston Place, a 400-room hotel that did pass the city's muster, but only after it was built to fit with the style of the buildings around it. The same is true of this $142 million performance hall, set to open in October. But for modernist architects like Ray Huff, Charleston's restrictions can make new design a bit tricky.
What we're having now is a bit of clash of values, as it were, and trying to determine how do we find that right balance. And that's a difficult proposition.
When Clemson University designed this contemporary building to house the school's architecture center in Charleston, it was met with such opposition, the plans had to be scrapped.
The process of going through getting permits and what have you for a building is an extremely difficult process in Charleston.
The same debate is ringing throughout Savannah, although here, historic preservation takes on a little different tone.
Is there a general sense about sort of modern contemporary architecture coming into Savannah?
I think we embrace it. I think we embrace it, but we ask serious questions about whether this building will contribute to the city.
Christian Sotil is the Dean of the School of Building Arts at the Savannah College of Art and Design. And he's the architect behind this, the school's new Museum of Art.
We set out to design a building that would communicate across 3 centuries.
It's a contemporary building, but one that incorporates what was left of the oldest surviving antebellum railroad depot in the country.
We actually like to use the term creative preservation. Historic is looking backwards, and preservation sounds like you're just kind of hanging on. That's not very hopeful. Where creative preservation is making and saving. It's both.
That depot is one of more than 70 historic sites that Savannah's College of Art and Design has saved and repurposed. Everything from a former county jail to what used to be a 19th century armory.
It really is a living laboratory.
Many of the buildings, like this one, look out on perhaps Savannah's best-known feature, its squares. There are 22 of them in all, a design unique to Savannah. In fact, it's considered one of the nation's first planned cities. While it's not as old as Charleston, Savannah's historic district is much larger, stretching from the waterfront, where buildings like Savannah's Cotton Exchange still stand, to neighborhoods where homes with gas lanterns and intricate ironwork sit beneath the Spanish moss. For purists, this is what makes Savannah, and the new can still spark controversy. The 64,000 square foot Jepson Center for the Arts, for example, designed by Moshe Safdie, was pretty tough to get by Savannah's Historic Review Board, and some still don't like it today.
It's got a grand staircase filled with glass, but maybe not so appropriate for an historic city like Savannah.
These port cities of the South, Savannah and Charleston, are survivors. They've outlived fires, hurricanes, slavery, and of course war. They surely will survive design disputes, but not without a fight.